procedure. So hope you guys are ready. I think we've got a nice crowd so far. So we're gonna get going. Tiff and Tony, if you guys want to just kind of go ahead and maybe explain why you all have passions in this particular topic, that may be great. And then yeah, just get to rolling with your agenda. Looking forward to the conversation. And then of course, after their presentation, you guys, we are gonna take questions, comments, anything that you guys want to offer, interesting things that you all found out about Judge Brown Jackson, or what you're looking forward to regarding the hearing, what you all think we should look out for, all that good stuff when we get to the questions and comments portion. So Tiff, Tony, you guys take it away. I'm going to mute myself and get ready for the conversation.
Thank you, Renee. Appreciate you hosting, since, Twitter hates me and doesn't want to let me host spaces. So I appreciate you taking time on a Sunday to do this, just so we can prepare for, what the week will look like, and we can have this conversation. So to answer your question on why I'm passionate about judges, I think I wasn't necessarily always passionate about it, but ever since 2016, of course, I studied political science, so it was definitely something that I always had interest in. But in terms of really getting into it, I probably started getting into it in 2019, when Tony and I kind of were talking about it. He had a wonderful thread about judges, and we kind of went from there, partnering on this and trying to make sure that everyone understood the importance of what it means to have judges, on our bench, who look like us, who sound like us, who are liberal, and who can make the difference in the laws that are being put forward, and be able to to confirm that they are in fact the laws of the land, and go from there. So I think it's really important, that we have this conversation, and I'm glad that he's here to be able to do that as well, since he is, as I like to call him, he's the guru on judges, and he's really good at picking them and explaining, and I'm more better at kind of talking about them from a personal level, and being able to explain who they are, and personalizing judges. Oftentimes we don't really think of judges as
Come on.
Tiff, you good?
What?
Tiff, are you okay?
Hold on. I'm hanging. It came in my. Hold on.
Hello?
Hi. So while Tiff is handling temporary technical difficulty, I my contribution to this as a practicing attorney and general person obsessed with the federal judiciary. What I'll be talking about is the impact of federal judges on a day-to-day basis. Some common issues that they come up before federal judges, both at the initial trial court level and later at the appellate court level, and eventually at the Supreme Court level, where the constitutionality, the validity of a law or a government action is either validated or struck down. And liberals typically struggle um, uh, to explain or message on why federal judges are important. But it's my hope that after this conversation, we can communicate to the public in a way that really conveys the importance of why it is liberal federal judges need to be confirmed to the bench. They wield an inordinate amount of power as the third branch of government. And for the past roughly 60 years, we've been playing catch up with the Republicans. I've been tracking how many judges have been appointed and confirmed since the beginning of the modern era, which is 1960. And Republicans have us beat on nominations and confirmations to the Supreme Court by a wide margin, at least 6 to 7 judges, despite not winning as many presidential elections. or winning the popular vote. So it's not what you would consider a sexy topic, quote unquote, on a that's as explosive as the criminality of the Trump administration, but nonetheless, it's super important for purposes of holding and using power. And for now, that's all I have. I'll pass it back to Renee.
Okay, Tiff, are you there? Are
I'm
you
here.
good?
Can you hear me?
Okay. Are you, yeah. Do you want to finish up what you were saying, and then yeah, go right into Judge Brown Jackson's bio.
Yeah, I was done what I was saying.
Oh, okay.
I think the most important thing to remember about judges, and I'm sure Tony will talk about this later, is why we are stressing the 53 pickup in 2022 is partially because of this, right? There's so many impacts. It's just not about the Senate. It's about the Senate and the judiciary kind of go hand in hand. And I think we'll kind of elaborate on that a little bit later after we talk about the importance of, Ketanji Brown Jackson's confirmation and the process that we're going to have to go through to get her confirmed over the next week. So let's just talk about her because I think she's so phenomenal. And going through this process of learning about her myself, I am so impressed with this woman and the fact that she is going to be our next Supreme Court judge. So obviously she was born her in DC, which is great. She was born Ketanji Onika Brown on September 14th, 1970. She is a Virgo, so for all my Virgos out there, she was raised in Miami, Florida. Her parents are Johnny and Ellery Brown. They both went to segregated schools and they are from the South. And they both graduated from HBCUs. So she has a wonderful family. Her father and mother were both educators. And then her dad later became a lawyer. She likes to talk about how, if you saw her video that was posted by the White House, she talked, and in her speech that she gave when she was nominated, she talked about her dad a lot and about the fact that he was an educator, but then they moved to Miami and he decided to become a lawyer. And that's kind of what inspired her to be a lawyer herself. She used to watch him while he was doing she was supposed to be doing her homework and he was doing his own homework to become a lawyer, and that kind of guided her and inspired her to want to take this career path. So I found that video, I don't know if everyone has seen it, but I found it inspirational and made me cry the first time I saw it. So if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it because she talks passionately about her parents and about her family and kind of what led her to this point. As far as her education, Judge Brown Jackson was a stellar student. Obviously, she was a debate star. She was elected mayor and student body of president of her high school. Go figure, right? She's an overachiever. She dreamed of going to Harvard, but and she actually visited Harvard twice, and she states this in that video that she went there because she was a debater. She was in a debate tournament that led her to go to Harvard and be able to see the campus while she was in high school. She was a champion. She won an oratory title at the National Catholic Forensic Language Championship in New Orleans, and which is the second largest high school debate tournament. So she was definitely an outstanding student. She was definitely an outstanding debater. And then she ended up going to Harvard. But what was so interesting is, of course, as she recounts, is that her guidance counselor actually told her not to set her sights so high. So as you can imagine, a young Black woman wanting to go to Harvard and someone tells her not to set her sights so high. So kind of a typical story there where somebody tries to undercut and she exceeds all of the expectations. She goes to Harvard where she studies government and she graduates magna cum laude. Then while she's there, she is leading protests. She is, she's studying, as well as, she's also a student, right? She's also a student there, and she actually enjoys theater. She does improv. She stars in a play. as she starts in a play, and she is being her normal self. She also meets her husband while at Harvard, which is a great story in itself. So she becomes this student who excels and is great at, but of course she's navigating a very white space, and she talks about this, and her friends talk about this too, and there's a New York Times article that kind of goes through. I found the story compelling because I think many people who are, really, really smart, go to these, primary white universities, and they are trying to figure out who they are and where do they fit in. But the friends that are giving the story, they're Black women as well, and she tried to cultivate, a relationship, and she's still friends with these women till this day, which I found very, very interesting and very compelling, like I said, of a story that she had as this person who is now going to sit on the Supreme Court, hopefully after his confirmation. After she finishes Harvard and gets her degree, she then goes to work as a staff reporter and researcher for Time magazine, and she does that for an entire year. She then decides to go to Harvard Law School, where she earns a Juris Doctorate degree, and she graduates cum laude. And she was the editor of the Harvard Law Review. So she has in her mind that she's going to be this, this lawyer, but where her career goes is very interesting because she does so much in her career. She gained so much experience that has led her to where she is today. So I'm going to go through this career because it is quite impressive. She has done so much in all these years that she has been a lawyer, and it's like I said, it's really, really impressive when you think about it. So from 1996 to 1997, she was a law clerk for Judge Patty B. Saris of the United States District Court for the District of Massachusetts. She then goes on to law clerk for Judge Bruce M. Selya of the United States Courts of Appeals for the First Circuit. She leaves there, and then she goes from 1998 to 99. She spends 1 year in private practice at a prestigious law firm. After that, she goes back to law clerking, but then she goes to work for Justice Stephen Breyer of the United States Supreme Court, who she's actually replacing this time, right, on the Supreme Court. So just kind of a full circle moment. Then from 2000 to 2003, she spends 3 years in private practice, first at a Boston-based law firm, Goodwin Procter, and then at the Feinberg Group for 2 years. From 2003 to 2005, she was the assistant special counsel to the U.S. Sentencing Commission. And then from 2005 to 2007, she was an assistant public defender, where she handled cases before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, where she actually sits today as a judge. So a lot of the jobs that she had, kind of interesting that she ends up back on these same courts, or she's taking over for people like Stephen Breyer, who is currently on Supreme Court. So I found that interesting as well. Like I said, full circle moments for her. From 2007 to 2010, she was an appellate specialist at Morris and Forrester Law Firm. And then in July 2009, President Barack Obama nominated her for the vice chair of the U.S. Sentencing Commission. From there, she was confirmed in February 2010. All 100 senators agreed because it was done by unanimous consent. And she sat on that commission from 2010 to 2014. During that time, she served as the sentencing commissioner. She retroactively amended the sentencing guideline to reduce the guidelines for crack cocaine offenses, and enacted the drug -2 amendment, which implemented a 2 offense level reduction for drug crimes. While she was on there, she was also nominated by President Obama in September 2012 to serve on the U.S. District Court of the District of Columbia. And she was confirmed to that position on March 22nd, 2013. So she was on the Sentencing Commission, as well as a district court judge on the District of Columbia simultaneously until 2014. On March 30th, 2001, President Biden nominated Judge Brown Jackson to the seat vacated by Merrick Garland. Obviously, he went to be Attorney General. And she is now sitting on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the district for the D.C. Circuit Court. She was one of President Biden's first judges picked when he became president, which is how I got to know her. I knew about her before, but I also got to know her through that process. And she had a hearing like she will have this week, and she was confirmed to a vote of 53 to 44. So she did have bipartisan support. And then obviously she's been sitting on that court for about, I think she was confirmed in June 14, 2001. So she's been sitting on that court for about 8 months. Well, I guess that would be June. Yeah, about almost 9 months that she's been sitting on that court. So there's not a lot of a body of work from there that they're probably going to look at in terms of what she's done in this hearing, but they will look more so at her district court record because she had sat on that court for almost 8 years. So that's where the bulk of what is going to come out this week will likely be about. And then, of course, on February 25th, a couple of weeks ago, President Biden nominated Ketanji Brown Jackson Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to be the Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. And if she is confirmed, she will be the first Black woman to sit on the Supreme Court, and she was the first Black woman to be nominated. So she has an extensive work history. I think when you look at it in terms of comparing her to the other judges that sit on the Supreme Court, she is probably one that has the most experience. She actually has more experience than the Chief Justice who sits on the Supreme Court, right? The one compared to Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, she far exceeds them. Right. So I think we need to also recognize how much this woman brings to the table, all of her experience. And so when people say, well, she's, just because she's a Black woman, she doesn't deserve this seat, that is totally false. She has the experience to be on this court. She has more experience than most people that have ever been on the Supreme Court, which is totally impressive. A couple of cases that I want to bring up that that people may talk about during the week is her case that she ruled against the Trump administration's effort to block the White House counsel Don McGahn from testifying as part of Trump's impeachment. She in her ruling, she stated that presidents are not kings, which is true, and that the United States of America has a government of laws and not men. And that was in her 2019 opinion. So that may be brought up this week as well. She also made a ruling in the case of the Roads of New York versus McCallen, and she ruled against the Trump administration in a case brought up by the ACLU and other immigrant rights groups. She also sentenced Edgar Madison Welsh to 48 months in prison in 2017 after he fired an assault rifle inside Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria in DC. He was the Pizzagate guy. So she was part of that that situation where he was sentenced and she sentenced him 48 months. So that may come up as well. In Judge Brown Jackson's career, she has penned more than 500 opinions in the 8 years she spent on the district court. So clearly that is what, like I said, they're going to use this week as part of her case file to kind of go through those cases. And we've already heard Josh Hawley start with his nonsense on, some of her casework. In terms of her casework as a public defender, they're going to bring up Guantanamo Bay because she did defend someone who, one of the terrorists. This was part of her job. This was not something, when you're a public defender, you get the cases that you get, and that is something that's going to probably be brought up. So that is some case information there. As far as her personal life, in 1996, she married Patrick Jackson, who works as a general surgeon at MedStar Georgetown University Hospital. Like I said, they met during undergrad at Harvard, and they have two daughters, Talia, who's 21 in college, and Layla, 17, who is in high school. She is 51 years old. which is a good age for the court, considering that she will have this seat likely for the next 20 to 25 years. If you're looking for age reference, Sonia Sotomayor was 55 when she was confirmed in 2009. So she is just at the right age where you would want someone to be confirmed, because, like I said, 20 to 25 years is, kind of what you're looking for when you are putting someone on the Supreme Court. This is a lifetime appointment. She could be there forever, not ever and ever, but she could be there for, even more than that. So that is an important aspect of this. She's young, she's educated, she's experienced, and she is the right person for this job. A couple of interesting facts about her. Her parents actually gave her name, Ketanji Onika, which means lovely one. And they picked that from a list that was sent to them by her aunt, who was in the Peace Corps in West Africa. They want to give her an African name, and so they picked that name, which I think is absolutely beautiful. In high school, she was voted most likely to succeed and most talented, which she most definitely is. Like I said, at Harvard, she did improv and she jumped into theater, and she won a role as a doo-wop girl in The Little Shops of Horrors in her freshman year. And then she played Billie Holiday in Yesterdays, a play she adapted from the singer's autobiography. In 2020, she told a group of Black law students in Chicago, and this is in quotes, "As a young Black woman with a funny name, I already stood out, and so I invested heavily in doing in doing what was required to build my brand within each organization I worked in." So she's very self-assured. She knows who she is, and she and one of the things that one of her friends said is that when she would meet people, because she had, as she would say, a funny name, she would always spell it out for people. She would spell out her whole entire name, and she's a little sassy, which made me laugh when I was reading the article as well. She also has said, in quotes, "As a dark skinned Black girl who was often the only person of color in my class, club, or social environment, my parents knew that it was essential that I develop a sense of my own self worth that was in no way dependent on what others thought about my abilities." Like I said, she's very confident in who she is. She has had to navigate through many different spaces. And so I have the ultimate respect for her, because she has had to go through some interesting things in terms of, from her high school days through college, through working, through navigating through this system where we all know the systemic racism that comes into play, and that she's excelled and gotten this far is a testament to herself, to her parents, and to everyone in her life who has guided her along the way. In 2008, when she was in private practice, well before she became a judge, she helped her uncle, who was in jail for a life sentence after a drug offense. In 2014, a law firm submitted a petition on her behalf to President Obama, and he commuted her uncle's sentence on November 22nd, 2016. Judge Jackson will be the sixth woman to sit on the Supreme Court. She will be the first Black woman. She will be the first public defender on the Supreme Court. She only stands at 5'1", but she clearly is a giant and will be a giant on the Supreme Court. She is entering territory that no one else has, just like the VP. So we don't really know she and I don't think any of us know what to expect in terms of how she will be treated this week. But we can only suspect that, someone will say something or do something that will probably piss us all off. But she's ready and she will handle it with grace. She will be one of two sitting jurists from the South. The other is Clarence Thomas. And she will be one of two practicing Protestant jurists, which the other one is Gorsuch, who's Episcopalian. So she's filling a role that I think most people have come, appreciated Stephen Breyer, but this is a whole new territory. And so she brings a lot to the table, and she's obviously a liberal judge. She's not a radical, like the probably Republicans will make her out to be. She's pretty steadfast in what she believes, and and her casework shows for that. As far as endorsements, this week she also received the ABA's highest quality rating, which is well qualified. She has been endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police, the SEIU Labor Union, conservative former judges Tom Griffith and Michael Ludwig. She was endorsed by a bipartisan group of former Supreme Court clerks. She was endorsed by the International Association of Chiefs of Police, which is actually pretty impressive because they usually don't weigh in on these type of issues and nominations. And she was also endorsed by the U.S. Black Chambers. The International Association, like I said, International Association of Police, 59 former Justice Department officials, including Loretta Lynch and Sally Yates also weighed in, as well as states attorney generals weighed in as well. So she has a lot of supports. I've seen the CHC, I've seen the CBC, I've seen a lot of different groups coming out saying, listen, she's a person for this job and we need to protect her at all costs, which I think is really impressive. And it also speaks to the volume of who she is and that people want to see her succeed. And I'm sure everyone on this call does as well. So that is what I had on her. And like I said, I think she is going to do really well at the hearing this week. If you've seen her in her hearing previously, she is very calm. She's very joyous. She always has a big smile, which I appreciate. And let's talk about what to expect at the hearing. So the hearing will begin tomorrow, which is Monday. And it begins with statements from committee members. So it'll be 10 minutes each from each committee member. Then there will be individual introductions of her. So it could be her husband, it could be people that know her parents. I'm not exactly sure who will introduce her, but that remains to be seen. And then she will introduce herself for 10 minutes. So we'll get to know from her, who she is and what she's about tomorrow, as well as other individuals who will be introducing her. Then on Tuesday, the questioning will begin at 9 a.m. Each member on the committee, it'll go by seniority, will have 30 minutes to ask her questions. So this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky because we don't know what people are going to ask her. But we can only suspect that Hawley, Cruz, and Kennedy will act the fool. I'll just say that just like that, because we already know that Hawley has already come out and he's already put out some stuff about, her casework and about this whole thing that's been debunked already. If you've read any of the opinions in Washington Post and New York Times about her sentencing of sexual predators and such. So he is saying that she was too kind to these people that that committed whether it was sexual assault or molestation. He felt like she didn't sentence them correctly, but most of the people who have looked at this have said that that is incorrect. So just watch out for them. I would also watch out for Amy Klobuchar, Senator Hirono, Booker, Ossoff, and Padilla, because they will have to also defend her as well. She'll be there to defend herself, but I'm sure that they will be watching closely to make sure that things don't go off the rails, because we know 30 minutes is a long time to try to, to talk to somebody, and she can filibuster for so long, answer the questions, but they can those three, I do not trust them to do the right thing. So I am more than certain that, like I said, I think everyone will defend her in their own way, but Ossoff and Padilla particularly are new on that committee, so they don't really know what to expect. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond to Hawley, who will come right before them. And then on Wednesday, the questioning will again begin at 9 a.m. Members will have the opportunity to ask questions for 20 minutes. So we have day 2 of questioning. Again, it'll be by seniority, and it'll be more of the same from Tuesday to ask for those questions that they have so pressing. I think most of the Democrats will probably praise her and ask a few questions, but it is the Republicans who we are not sure how they are going to act, which I'm sure Lindsey Graham will be on his best behavior this time, but you just never know how Republicans will react to her, especially knowing that she's a Black woman. So anything and everything is fair game at this point. And then Thursday, the hearing will conclude. The ABA and outside witnesses will testify, and the hearing begins at 9 a.m. So those testimonies will be 5 minutes each, and then each person on the committee will get 5 minutes to ask questions of the group. So, in conclusion, Judge Brown Jackson is a remarkable person. As it seems, she's a remarkable jurist. Her nomination means so much to so many, including myself. Um, just seeing her being nominated, I think it brought a tear to so many of us because we never expected that this would happen. And so, for me, I when Sonia Sotomayor, she was obviously the first woman of color that was selected, but this is a next level, right? This is a different situation. I relate very much to Sonia Sotomayor. She's Puerto Rican, but there's something about Judge Brown Jackson that is different in that situation. It's just there's something powerful about seeing a Black woman excel and be at the top. And like I said, I never expected that she would be. I never expected that we would even have a Supreme Court nominee who is a Black woman. Nevertheless, for one to actually be having a hearing and to be confirmed. So, yes, I'm getting a little choked up thinking about it because I feel like this is probably like something that all of us will probably remember. You know, 10, 15 years from now, we'll be talking about this moment because it's really, really an important moment in history that a lot of us didn't really expect to happen. So just prepare yourself for the hearing. Just know that someone will act a fool, like I said, and trust the process because there are people there that are going to protect her. She will protect herself. She will be prepared. Black women are always prepared. That is a fact. She's going to be probably over prepared, but she will be prepared for whatever comes her way. And just know that she has this, and we will have her back and make sure that people, anyone who's talking crazy on Twitter, on social media, we will be there to have her back as well. So I'm looking forward to the hearing. I hope you guys learned a little bit more about her. Like I said, there's plenty of articles out there that talk about her. I have some pictures to share as well, so I'll post them on my timeline of when she was young. I mean, like I said, her personality, I think, it reminds me so much of VP, where with everything that she's probably been through in her life, she always has like a positive outlook, and she's always joyous, which is definitely something that appeals to me. And she always has a smile on her face, and her smile could like literally brighten up any room. She's just so happy. And I just think so highly of her, and I'm just so glad that we've gotten to this point. So that's my conclusion. Tony, anything you want to add? And then you can talk about why judges matter.
No, I think you nailed it. Thank you, Tiff, for that. That was a very good summary of the impressive career of Judge Jackson. And I'm going to talk about why judges matter by framing it in the context of the judges that Judge Jackson clerked for. Because in order to understand why it is important for Democrats to control federal judgeships, you have to understand what it is that they have the power to do and what it is they don't have the power to do. First, with respect to, we had said earlier that Judge Jackson began her career clerking for Judge Patty Saris. And Judge Patty Saris from Massachusetts is a trial court judge, a federal trial court judge who is now senior, but the United States federal judiciary is divided into three parts: the trial court, the appellate court, and finally the Supreme Court. Obviously, it's important for the hearing purposes that we understand that the Supreme Court is the final word on the constitutionality, that is the validity of laws and of government actions. Any opinion that the Supreme Court hands down is binding on every single federal appellate court in the country. There are 11 of them. And that binds the federal district courts that are contained within the federal appellate courts. I'll give you an example. There are 5 different district courts in the First Circuit. The First Circuit is the appellate division, and that circuit of judges creates, not creates, but they reach opinions on issues, contested issues of law that become binding on all courts in that circuit. Now, the reason the Supreme Court is considered the most powerful branch of government is because it has the power to declare whether or not a law or a government action is constitutional. And that's established through a very famous Supreme Court precedent called Marbury versus Madison, in which I don't need to go into the weeds with that one, but it essentially, the famous holding that it put forth is it is the province of the judiciary to say what the law is. So whether or not a law, let's take for example the Texas SB 8, the voter suppression law, whether that law is valid is dependent on the Supreme Court's interpretation of the Civil Rights Act. So depending on how they view that law and how it is applied, it could be the case that they'll either strike it down if it doesn't comport with the justice's views, or they'll uphold it, which is seemingly likely because the Supreme Court is controlled 6-3 by Republicans. In theory, the Supreme Court is supposed to be nonpartisan on certain things, and it is the case that several, maybe a handful of cases every term gets decided by a unanimous court, 9-0 or 8-1. But for the thorniest of issues, and I'm talking about things like the Second Amendment rights, abortion rights, religious displays, funding for public school funding being redirected to religious schools, things of that nature, and voting rights, things of that nature almost always end up in front of the court and decided by either a 5-4 margin when it was 5 liberals or to 4 conservatives, or the other way around. But these days, because we have a 6-3, it's become the case that things that used to be, not controversial are now becoming very controversial. And so it's important for us to understand from the beginning that when a case begins, it starts at the trial court level. And a trial court has a lot of power. I'll avoid like the most gory details for now, but the most important ones for our purposes is the fact that a trial court can issue something that's called an injunction. That is, they can stop a law from going into effect. They can review the law initially for constitutionality. And because federal trial court judges are appointed for life, they don't answer to anybody. The judiciary is independent, and they can do whatever they want, even though we might not like it. So consider the trial court to be the first line of defense in any given issue that you care about. If you care about access to abortion rights or voting rights, the trial court level, which is where Judge Jackson started her judicial career and where she started her legal career, that's ground zero, right? And it is one of the observable trends with respect to trial courts is that they lead to things called forum shopping. That is to say, on a given issue, Republican lawyers can bring a case to a preferred trial court so that they can get the outcome that they want. I'll give you a very concrete example. The District Court for the Western District of Texas is known for its very Republican bias. This is a court that Republicans always go to in order to undermine the Biden agenda with respect to immigration, with respect to voting rights, and finally, with respect to abortion. They know that because the judges in that trial court are friendly to them, that they will rule in the way that they want. And because of that, that leads to this reputation that this trial court is friendly to Republicans, blah, 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 blah. That's important for purposes of my next point, which is once an issue has been decided at the trial court level, chances are good it will be appealed. It'll get appealed to the next level of federal courts, which is the appellate court level. Now, they're called circuit courts in the common vernacular. The difference between an appellate court and a trial court, the crucial difference, is that appellate courts are generally expected to be more partisan and more ideological than their lower level trial court peers. This is true when you look at there's been a lot of complaining going on about the Fifth Circuit and how it's been an activist circuit, and these Trump judges are doing all of these things to undermine the Biden agenda in order to achieve their policy goals. That is not uncommon. We have our own ideological circuit court. It's called the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. The rest of them, there are 13 circuits. Some of the circuits are nonpartisan in that they only deal with things that can't get politicized, like patents. But other courts, like the Seventh Circuit, which is headquartered in Chicago, they abide by these judicial norms and ideologies that are specific to that region. So just using the Seventh Circuit as an example, because it's located in Chicago, the decisions that come out of that court are heavily influenced by so-called the Chicago School of Economics, right? So it's very business friendly. This is totally, and one more example is the 11th Circuit, which is located in the South, is very unfriendly towards voting rights. So these appellate courts on which Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson currently serves, she serves on the DC Circuit, their opinions create binding precedent that the lower courts at the trial court level must follow. They have no choice in the matter. If it doesn't reach the Supreme Court, then these appellate courts are the last line of defense. There are currently 18 vacancies that have not been filled or nominated, have a nominee pending before them. And President Biden will be naming people to these vacancies. But Republicans currently have an advantage in that they have 92 ideologues on the circuit court level, whereas we only have 64. Obviously, our ranks will be replenished when those 18 vacancies are filled and the 5 pending nominees get confirmed. I think that'll bring us to around 87. so close to parity. But the point is that the appellate courts and the trial courts together act as a bulwark, act as a full stop against the legislative priorities of Congress, of state legislatures, as well as executive actions by governors, attorney generals, and so forth. They are not a they are a means to power within themselves, not merely just courts where issues are decided. Um, Judge Jackson currently serves in the DC Circuit Court of Appeals. That is considered the second most powerful judicial body in the United States, second only to the United States Supreme Court, because it's located in DC and therefore has jurisdiction over the administrative authorities of the various federal agencies. No other appellate court has proximity to those agencies, and they can't direct them to do things. But Judge Jackson serves on a court where, if the EPA is doing something that is considered not following the rules set in the statute that created it, then she and a panel of judges on the DC Circuit can stop them from doing things. It's obviously much more complicated than that. There are different ways that it can be done. But the short version of it is that the appellate courts and the trial courts together create a path for not only ordinary, everyday things affecting civilians and citizens, but also serve as the place where ideological battles, policy issues, and political combat is decided. And because these courts are not at all because they're ideological, because they're partisan, we have to control them. We want liberal judges to create binding precedent that favors our priorities. We want them to create precedents that allow greater access to reproductive health care, allow greater access to the ballot box, allow greater access to health care. Now, the reason why the other reason why appellate courts are so important is that when one or more appellate courts disagree on a certain issue, that creates a condition that makes it more likely for something to go up to the Supreme Court. One of the key aspects of what it takes for the Supreme Court to grant what is called certification, certiorari, over a case is whether a court disagrees. If one or two appellate courts disagree over their interpretation of a law. So I'm just going to make up an example. If the Fifth Circuit, the Republican activist court, disagrees with how to interpret the immigration statute, and that interpretation conflicts with the Ninth Circuit, then it is more likely that the Supreme Court will take up that case in order to resolve the difference. Now, because the current Supreme Court is controlled 6-3 by Republicans, you can expect that they'll probably go the way of the Fifth, not the Ninth. They'll resolve the circuit split in favor of the party that has placed them in power. Again, this is an outcome we want to avoid because their opinions are binding on the rest of us. They're the final word on how valid or not valid a law is. So it is very important to control as many vacancies as possible, and not to mention to control the Supreme Court if possible. While Judge Jackson will be replacing Stephen Breyer, that's not a flip. It's a replacement of a liberal. So our hope is that, and this is something I've been praying to the voodoo gods for, is Clarence Thomas retires, allowing Joe Biden to fill his replacement with a liberal judge. That doesn't change the composition of the court in the sense that it's still a 5-4 court, but when you have a to negotiate with your colleagues on the court in order to reach an outcome on a given issue. The last thing I'll say is that expanding the Supreme Court is a non-starter because it takes an act of federal legislation to do that. And the last time that happened was after the Civil War. And if the only thing that can cause the court to be expanded is civil war, then the court is never going to get expanded again. That's why it's so important to understand that the courts have a lot of power at the federal level, and if vacancies come up, it's important to fill them as soon as possible with like-minded judges. Now, I mentioned earlier that Justice Clarence Thomas, who is currently 74 years old, just 5 years younger than Justice Scalia before he died, replacing him wouldn't change the composition of the court, only make it a 5-4 instead of a 6-3. The way I see that playing out is that Justice Clarence Thomas replaced the first black man on the Supreme Court ever, which is Thurgood Marshall. So we're in another moment of history this week. Once he is replaced, I see it happening like this. Because President Obama chose the Solicitor General, Elena Kagan, to be his second Supreme Court pick, I think Joe Biden will do the same thing and choose his Solicitor General, Elizabeth Prelogar, to replace whoever the next vacancy is. I think in this case it'll be Clarence Thomas. It could be Sam Alito, who's 72 years old, but I don't know. It seems more likely that the older guy is more likely to retire than the younger guy. The Solicitor General is colloquially known as the 10th Justice. And so my thinking on this is that if it's the case that Clarence Thomas gets replaced, it'll be with someone who has experience arguing in front of the Supreme Court on behalf of the U.S. government as the Solicitor General. It, again, would be a non-controversial affair. Republicans have already voted to confirm her as the Solicitor General, so they're familiar with her. After that point, it becomes a little bit murkier about who would be on Joe Biden's watch list. My instinct tells me that Judge Jennifer Sung, who has been confirmed on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, a very friendly labor law lawyer. She currently sits in Portland, Oregon. She's 50 years old, very young, would be the first Asian American woman to sit on the court. So you have that historical angle. You have the youth. Another one to look for is Judge Allison Nathan, who Joe Biden nominated to sit on the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, and who, in fact, might be getting confirmed to that position sometime next week. If she's confirmed, she would be the first openly lesbian woman to sit on the Supreme Court. So those are the judges that should be on your radar after Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is confirmed, because they have A, the pedigree, B, the historicity, and C, the eminent qualifications to sit on the Supreme Court. I'll repeat those three again: Elizabeth Prelogar, Jennifer Sung, and Allison Nathan. So to wrap up and to conclude, is courts are extremely important because they're the first line of defense whenever a law gets passed, whenever an executive or state official does something, and you want to stop it from happening. Without them, and without the independence that they enjoy, there would be the balance of power would be tilted in either the president or the Congress's direction. And so we do have a challenge in the sense that the Supreme Court is controlled by 6 Republicans, but Chief Justice Roberts is becoming squishier and squishier the crazier that his colleagues become. So there may be, this coming term, there are a lot of very dramatic cases involving abortion rights and gun rights and the several old legal doctrines that have not been re-examined for decades, going under the microscope again. These have been projects for the Republicans for years, and they're going to get a second look at it. But if you don't want them to do that, you got to elect more Democratic senators so that we can confirm more judges to more vacancies, so that we can build out the bench to confirm Supreme Court justices when the time comes. That's all I have for now. I'll take questions later. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. So, I find it fascinating. I know you say, it's not necessarily sexy talk, but honestly, right now, talking about Democratic judges on the federal bench, it excites me. Okay, at this point in history, and I find it fascinating. I mean, my parents were attorneys, so I've always kind of been intrigued by legal process and procedure and protocol and all that good stuff. So we really appreciate you laying that out and letting us know, a couple of judges that should be on our radar. We're going to try to, if Tony, if you can try to retweet a couple of those names to our Jumbotron, just so that we can share those names for the record.
Oh, yeah. I will make
Yeah.
a thread of those judges and have, little small profiles done for them.
Great. Well, that's wonderful. You and Tiff are really good about doing profiles and biography. And Tiff, thank you so much for the biography that you did on Ketanji. That was really great. I had no idea that she was a little thespian. And
There you go. I knew you would enjoy.
Yeah, I love that part.
I knew you would enjoy that.
Now I gotta go hard for her extra. Because how are you doing plays on Billie Holiday? Like, that is fantastic. And what that says to me is that this is someone who understands the importance of presentation. Okay, because as someone who used to act in a former lifetime, the presentation is very, very important, and it's going to be very important for this hearing. So she always seems kind of natural and pleasant, but that she kind of has that bug in her, that says a lot to me. And I like hearing that she's had kind of like a full life, right? That her life hasn't been completely bombarded by, the legal system that she's lived. That's very important for judges as well, because, what are we finding on these courts, especially the people that are completely out of touch? And so the fact that she's a Black woman, yes, that speaks a lot for her understanding and knowing, what living is, and knowing what this country is and how difficult it can be, but also that she has, she's got maybe another side to her personality, or she's got other interests, that again adds to her the full breadth of her experience. So really appreciate you digging into her biography. I love, going over people's records and their accomplishments, but things like that, really humanize folks. And it's important for us to know that the character of the person that we're electing to the highest office of the land, her professional character, but also a bit about her personal character as well, I think is important. And I just want to pose a question to the two of you guys, and then anyone in the room, if you all want to move up, request to speak. Again, you can offer questions, you can offer comments, things that we should look out for, anything that you found interesting. Feel free to do that. But I do want to pose a question to Tony and Tiff before we move to that. I'm wondering if you all have any sort of predictions about, in addition to what you've already said, Tiff, just predictions about, who may be, maybe either on the Republican side or some of our challenged Democratic senators who may oppose some sort of, objection, aside from folks like Josh Hawley, who are going to be extreme, right? But I earlier this week, who was it? Our favorite conflicted senator. I don't know why I'm blanking on her name right now, but she
Susan
said,
Collins.
she didn't know if she. Yes, thank you, Gigi. She said she didn't know if she was going to confirm her now. So I'm wondering if you all have any kind of weird predictions like that of folks who are not necessarily going to vote against Ketanji, but may play a bit of a mind game this week.
I can answer that. Oh wait, I can. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go
My
ahead.
thinking.
You go
My
first.
thinking. I've been thinking about this issue mostly because I want Marco Rubio to be humiliated because he's up for re-election this year, and as we know from 2018, your vote on a Supreme Court nominee can drive a surge of voters in either in your direction or in the other direction. In the case of John Tester, he survived. Joe Manchin, he voted yes on Kavanaugh, but he survived as well. But Claire McCaskill and Joe Donnelly did not survive because they voted no, partially because of their Kavanaugh vote. My hope, my sincere hope, is that Marco Rubio is so conflicted on this that he ends up either voting the right way, which is yes, or no, which Val Demings then gets to use as a political bludgeon for the next few months in order to drive turnout in Miami. Because as Tiff mentioned earlier, Ketanji Brown Jackson is from Miami. She's a hometown hero. You don't want to be in a position where you have to vote against the hometown hero if you're up for re-election, especially not if that hometown hero status is on the Supreme Court. So my hope is that the wrinkle that I want to exploit there is Marco Rubio's discomfort. In terms of other judges, I think because Lindsey Graham and Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins each voted to confirm her to the DC Circuit earlier last year, I think they'll probably go along. I'm not so sure about Lindsey Graham because, he can be a flake. But Lisa Murkowski, it's important for her because she's also up for re-election. But Alaska is not the crazy Republican partisan world that that is characteristic of, say, Alabama or Texas or whatever. And so it may be in her interest as well to back the president's selection because, she's been playing ball with respect to the infrastructure vote and many other things in the agenda that have been bipartisan. Those guys, I think, will play ball. I think we can at least chalk up 3 Republican votes. Mitt Romney, probably not. And I honestly can't see any other Republican senators that are up for re-election this year voting to confirm her. Not even Tim Scott. Tim Scott will definitely vote against her. Ron Johnson will definitely vote against her. Chuck Grassley, who is the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, has a kind of brand in Iowa that's like History Channel loving farmer guy who wants to appear above the fray. So he may be a wild card, but chances are good he'll vote against her. There are no other honorable people in the Republican Party who, including, I don't see Ben Sass voting for her. I don't see Joni Ernst, John Thune, maybe Richard Burr because he's retiring.
Yeah, that's who I had.
Maybe Richard Burr, but he can be an asshole in and of himself. So
yeah, that's who I had. There's 3 that are retiring that they potentially could swing. You never know.
Yeah.
Which is Burr, Toomey, and Portman. You never know with those 3, considering they're retiring.
Yeah.
Burr could save face in North Carolina, knowing that Sherry Beasley is running, so he may want to save face for that race and seem like, and try to use that to help her opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Toomey, obviously, sometimes he cooperates, sometimes he doesn't. I don't know. I don't understand that guy. So it is very possible. And Portman always wants to seem like he's bipartisan.
Mm-hmm.
So anything, or any of those three could possibly swing. Or is it likely they will? Probably no. Just because they want to be, divisive. But the thing is, these people have no reason not to confirm her. It's literally, like you said, a replacement of a liberal judge. This is not a Kavanaugh situation, or where the seat was, where it feels like like things were stolen, or he has like some kind of issues, like like Gorsuch and the rest of them, and AC and stupid Amy Coney Barrett, where she was replacing Judge Ginsburg. This is a different situation. So the fact that these people can't even do the right thing is going to play differently in the minds of voters, because there's no justification for them not, other than that she's just a liberal. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. So I feel like it's going to be very interesting to watch. I agree on Marco Rubio, and I hope he does the wrong thing, because I want Val to use it against him. I have a question for you, before we move to everyone else who has questions. Who do you think will replace? We know that Judge Brown Jackson is going to get confirmed. Who do you think is going to replace her on the court of
I
appeals?
think Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar will replace her on the DC Circuit, because it is a logical move. The Solicitor General I said earlier, is considered the 10th member of the Supreme Court. They do all the oral arguments on behalf of the government's position in cases that require it. So she argued the Justice Department's position in the Texas abortion bill earlier this year. The Solicitor General is a part of the Justice Department. I think it's the fourth ranking member of that hierarchy. Right now, let me pull up my chart. My chart tells me that there are currently there's one pending nominee and one empty seat on the DC Circuit. The DC Circuit is what is colloquially known as the feeder circuit, the feeder court for the Supreme Court. A lot of judges have come up through the DC Circuit, including Kavanaugh, Chief Justice John Roberts, and some others I'm not remembering right now. Clarence Thomas came up through there as well. He was only there for 7 months before George Bush Sr. appointed him to the Supreme Court. So once Judge J. Michelle Childs is already a pending nominee before the DC Circuit, but once Judge Jackson is confirmed to SCOTUS, her seat opens up, allowing Elizabeth Prelogar, Solicitor General of the United States, to fill that seat and basically warm it until it's her turn to be nominated to replace either Clarence Thomas or Samuel Alito. One of the two. It doesn't matter which one it is to me. She's only
So then
42 years old.
So then that adds to another question, because then if she moves up, do you think Leandra Kruger goes to be Solicitor General?
Well, I don't know about that. I think Leandra Kruger is basically at the peak of her career as the leader, one of the leaders of the California Supreme Court. She's a kind of an elder liberal now that Gavin Newsom has named replacements to some of the older justices. There was reporting at the time that Ketanji Brown Jackson was being floated for the DC Circuit that Leandra Kruger did not want to move to Washington, D.C. Because she has a young family in California. And so if it's the case that turns out to be true, I don't see anything changing with respect to her preferences. I mean, her kids could get older from here to there, possibly making it easier to move. But if she didn't want to serve on the DC Circuit in 2021 for that reason, and if that reason hasn't changed going into say 2023, then I have no reason to believe that it will her preferences will change at that point.
Yeah, but she was a candidate for Supreme Court, so
Yes,
she
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 was.
may she may change her mind because wasn't she deputy Solicitor General at one
Yep.
point? Yeah,
Absolutely,
so
yeah. Leandra
so
Kruger, before she served on the California Supreme Court, has a similar background to Elizabeth Prelogar and Elena Kagan, I might add. She
right.
used to be the uh, acting principal deputy to the Solicitor General, which is the second in the office of the Solicitor General's office. She did that for more than a year. If you guys will know that role because the you guys know the cable TV news pundit Neil Katyal. That's the same job that she held before he held the position. So she's been there for on the California Supreme Court, my state, greatest state in the country, obviously, for 7 years now. And so if she wants it, she can probably get it. It's just a matter of wanting to uproot her family from LA to DC.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it'll be interesting. There's so many qualified women. I think that obviously, I'm pretty sure whoever Biden picks is going to be a woman. I think, and I know you have a chart because we
Mm-hmm.
always have a chart of how many women he has put on the court thus
I
far.
do. Let me pull
So, I
that
mean,
number up.
it's pretty impressive when you think about it. I mean, it's not only just Black women. I mean, he's definitely made an impression on me on how diverse he's made the courts over the last year and some change in putting these nominees on. So I mean, like Tony said, we had our first lesbian district court judge. We've had Latinos. We've had women. That most of the judges are women. So there has been an impact. So when we're talking about voting, we are not just voting for senator. We are technically voting for someone to be on the court because and of course for president, the president, it's a process, right? The president is going to nominate somebody. That nominee is then going to have to go before the senate, and then that senate body is going to have to confirm them. So if we are lacking in having a Democratic Senate, literally, as Biden told the House caucus last week, if you do not let me, if you guys don't get reelected, and this is for the Senate as well, you're basically not gonna let me do anything. Like nothing is gonna get done if we don't have a Senate, and especially in a House. We need to keep the Senate. This is why I go hard on the Senate every single day. I am so passionate about it because if we don't have that Senate, there is going to be a world of trouble because they will hold all of these nominees. And as Tony said, there are a ton of spots that still need to be filled. I mean, a lot of the Bush judges, a lot of the Clinton judges, they are retiring and they need to be, backfilled. So this is why they're trying to get as many judges done before the end of the year, and if we lose, it's going to be even worse. So we need to make sure that we get that Senate and we get at least 53. I mean, even if we get 51, it is better than nothing. We need to have, if we stays 50-50, I don't even care, but we need to make sure that we keep the majority. So you have the number, Tony?
Yeah, I'll lay bare the stakes for if we do not retain that Senate, and I'll illustrate it with a nice example from very recent history. The only reason why Mitch McConnell was able to block the nomination of Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court in 2016 was because in 2014 he obtained a Senate majority and obtained that power. That year, in 2016, President Obama was only able to confirm 12 total judges, both appellate and trial. And that was because he was forced to negotiate with Mitch McConnell. And the practical consequence of that was that those 12 judges that he managed to get confirmed in 2016, they were all over the age of 65, all over retirement age. That was the condition that Mitch McConnell put on him, was that in order for you to confirm any judges this year, 2016, the election year, not only do they have to be old, but they have to be vetted by me as well. Me, Mitch McConnell, right? So if it's the case that we hand the Senate over to Mitch McConnell once again, we will be exposing 63 judicial vacancies that have not been filled. That's 7% of the entire federal judiciary that will be blocked from being filled through one man, Mitch McConnell. Now, the positive news is that 23 white women and 41 women of color, for a total of 64 women out of 85 nominees, have been nominated by Joe Biden. That's more than 75% of Joe Biden's nominees to the federal district courts and the federal appellate courts have been women. I'm really impressed at the way he managed to only nominate like literally 5 white guys in his entire batch of judges. The remainder, 64 out of 85 nominees, have been women or women of color. And that has diversified the judiciary a lot, because women of color are barely more than 11% of the entire federal judiciary, compared to more than 40% of white men who dominate the federal judiciary. So that's what we're working towards when we try to flip Senate seats, to prevent, not only to prevent further whitening of the federal judiciary, but to make sure that it looks like the United States of America. It's not 40% white male. It's much closer to, it is a much different number. And so, lose in November and those 63 nominations don't get filled. And then Mitch McConnell gets a veto power over whoever Joe Biden nominates to replace Clarence Thomas when the time comes, or Samuel Alito when the time comes. And so the retaining the Senate now is the utmost priority in terms of federal elections. And I will just hammer that home every single day until, and that's again, one of the, Tiff said that's one of the reasons why she goes so hard for the Senate. That's another reason why I go so hard for the Senate, is because I need these judges to be confirmed. Need as many of them as possible confirmed, because there are a lot of vacancies and a lot of old judges that were confirmed during the Clinton and Obama years that need to get off the bench and retire for younger people to take their place.
Well, you just laid out, as if we didn't already know, why the Senate is so important, and why we really have to go hard this year. We have our work cut out for us still. So you all stay on your grind. Everybody in this room, stay on your hustle, and please share this conversation, because I've been impressed as well, Tony, with how thoughtful and speedily Joe and his administration have worked to place judges in. And I don't have half of your kind of legal knowledge as to how dire it is and how important it is. So I really appreciate his administration for that. It's something that they need to make sure that they highlight very well during midterms. And it's something that we could highlight even more. I mean, you and Tiff do a great job with that, but we all should make sure that we're highlighting it. And as I always point out, not just on Twitter, but to your family and your friends, and help them understand as well. We only have a few folks that have requested to speak so far, and we're not going to keep you guys long today at all. So we're going to get to our speakers. I'm going to get to Terrence and Shauna and Crystal in that order. But first, Geechee, you have your hand up, and I know you wanted to jump in and comment, so go right ahead.
Yes. First of all, thank y'all, my 2 sisters and my brother, for doing this space. We talked about doing spaces a long, long time ago. This was one of the ones we wanted to do, and we finally got it done, and the time was right. And y'all did a brilliant job with this tonight. I am so proud of y'all. because the courts are important and we have to treat the courts like they're important. Republicans vote no matter what because they understand the courts are important and the courts mean everything to them. It doesn't matter if it's a Romney running or a McCain or a Trump, they're going to vote because they know the courts matter. And we need to vote that same way as Democrats. The other point I wanted to talk about was religion and faith, because contrary to a lot of people's opinion, it really does drive voters. And this woman, this brilliant black woman, this woman that made me cry, this woman is somebody that was raised in a faith, but that was part of the biggest black faith as far as numbers in this country. She was somebody that used to be in the Catholic faith, but is now part a Baptist, part of the National Baptist Convention of USA, which is like the largest black denomination in this country and in the world. And she knows faith like the back of her hand. She understands how to speak to people that are Catholic, and there are a lot of black and especially Latino Catholics and Asian Catholics in this country. And there are a lot of Protestants. Obviously, most blacks are Protestants. She understands how to speak to these people and speak to the issues that we care about in a way that can move those people. And one of the things that made me happy seeing that, my sister's somebody that was raised Catholic and has now become a Protestant, but I am still Catholic, is that when we talked this afternoon, like I went to Mass this morning, she was the topic of conversation. I go to a black Catholic church in Patterson. She was the topic of conversation on why it's important for us to get off our asses and do what we need to do in this midterm. And my sister in the church, her husband, the church, they were talking about the importance of this woman in Orlando, Florida, getting on the courts. She is going to galvanize people in a way that y'all have not seen, because we haven't had an opportunity like this in a while to see something like this. So I am proud of this space today. I'm glad that people are finding out how important the courts are and how brilliant and wonderful this young lady is.
Great. Thanks, Geechee. Terrence, you're up. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know if you have a comment or a question. Terrence, are you there? Okay. We're going to come back to you, Terrence. Shauna, are you ready?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Thanks for holding the space. I just had a couple of quick comments. I just wanted to say that this is something that we will never forget, just because this is something that's never happened before. So I think Tiff was, when she said, we'll remember this years from now, because she'll, Justice Brown Jackson will be on the courts, way after Biden and Harris are gone. So this is something that's going to last for easily 20, 30 years. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was in her 80s when she passed and left the court. Clarence Thomas has been there for 30 years now, so almost 30 years. So this is a huge deal. I also wanted to point to something that Viola Davis said. She was talking about the entertainment industry, but I think it holds up anywhere. And she said the only thing that separates women of color from anyone else is opportunity. And I apply that to everything, because we've never seen this before. And it's not because we're not qualified, it's just because we were never given the chance. So I think that there needs to be normalization of Black women in high positions and in power, because this shouldn't have to be a big deal. But of course it is. But this should be something that should be normalized in our society. So we had 3 immensely qualified Black women for this post. There's still several more out there. I'm hoping that Biden maybe nominates one of the other ones next time. It's a pipe dream of mine. It may not happen, but but that's what I wanted to really say. This is, a celebration. So I'm so happy for her, and she's going to be amazing on the court.
Thank you for reminding us that it's a celebration too, because this week, I'm sure we're going to see things on the timeline that are going to trigger us regarding the hearing. And, just remember, like, it's maybe difficult at times to celebrate, in the midst of, rampant white supremacy and bigoted talking points, but you got to take your moments, because they're not going to let you have them, and I love that you spoke to, again, her being qualified, and that other women were also qualified, other Black women. It's important so that when we're reading, comments, frankly, from trolls who are trying to discredit her. No, we have every right to be here. And that woman has more than earned her place in history. So, definitely try to enjoy the week as much as possible, while you may be fighting disinformation and seeing, tweets or just moments or even comments from, some of our senators that may be upsetting. So thank you for that reminder, Shauna. Crystal, are you ready, girl? If you are, go ahead and speak.
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for holding this space and talking about why judges matter. And also, I have a couple things. One, when we talk about keeping the senators will be at the top of the ticket. So this is why it's important that we go hard for the 53 pickup. Um, and because of that, and the governor's races too that are coming up, we got to look down ballot, and as part of why judges matter, because judges will be on the ballot. We don't want a Rittenhouse judge. We don't want that judge in Alabama putting kids in a pipeline to jail because she has this special system. We don't want to see that. So every elected judgeship should be challenged. And one of the issues that came across for me was vetting them. And I talked to I put a question out there, and Tony was very helpful, and maybe he could provide some ideas. Where do we look, you know, generally for information to vet judges, sheriffs, um, even magistrates? They're part of there are different types of judges. Where do we look to vet them to make sure that they're right for our community, for our communities? Thank you.
I'm very glad you asked that question, because that leads me to a point that I didn't have a natural way to introduce, is that a number of states elect their judges, which is frankly ridiculous on its face, because it shouldn't be that way, but it is. And a lot of these high drama elections of judges are based on partisanship. And so there are um, multiple state Supreme Court elections in 2022 that um, that have to be part of our focus. Um, I'm looking. You asked what resource I use to vet these judges. I don't really vet them, because in order to vet them, you need to have a very you need to basically read their body of work, their opinions. That's a lot of research. But for purposes of ensuring that someone doesn't get in there that we don't want, the dynamic of Republican versus Democrat is a good enough North Star for us to figure out which judge needs to be elected. And I'll give you an example. In 2022, this year, there are 5 states, 6, 7 states that are doing partisan elections of judges. Now, some of these are, in places where there's no risk of losing the judgeship to a flip, like the part of Louisiana that has having a partisan election is most likely going to stay Democratic, because it's judicially gerrymandered to remain that way. But in places like North Carolina and Ohio and Texas, it's not that way. They're statewide elections. They're going to be on the ballot, and we need to be able to get our people out to vote in those elections as hard as we go for Justice Cherie Beasley for North Carolina Senate. Now, I want to reiterate that state Supreme Courts really, really matter. This wasn't covered in the earlier talk because it was about federal courts, but state Supreme Courts are also another hugely important bulwark of stopping Republican overreach or validating Democratic governance. One very recent example is in the case of the Ohio Supreme Court, where that court is a 4-3 Republican court. 4 Republicans, 3 Democrats. It was a Republican judge who decided that the gerrymandering of the congressional map by legislative Republicans in the Senate and the Assembly was unconstitutional, and she ordered them to draw a new map. It was a Republican judge who did that. Similarly, in North Carolina, the only reason why we now have a 6-7-1 fair map for congressional races in the House is because we had a 4-3 Democratic majority on the North Carolina Supreme Court. Same case with respect to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which is a 5-2 Democrat-controlled court. So it is in these under-the-radar elections that huge impacts can be made on things that matter to us, like gerrymandering and ballot access. And too many of these state Supreme Courts are controlled by a majority of Republicans. We are so far behind on state Supreme Court justices that it doesn't seem likely we're going to catch up anytime soon. But that's okay, because we don't have to. We just need majorities in certain state Supreme Courts in order to have the majority needed to get these issues resolved the way we want them resolved. We should not have to rely upon the kindness of the Republican Chief Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court to ensure that a fair map gets passed for the voters of Ohio. Now, practically speaking, there are 3 seats up for election on the Ohio Supreme Court in just 8 months. And all 3 of them are Republicans. So we now have this opportunity to throw out 3 Republican justices who voted to uphold the highly biased map, one of whom is the governor's son, a huge conflict of interest. And we need to be able to seize that opportunity. In Ohio, the 3 seats that are up, you have 3 incumbents, 3 Republican incumbents, and 3 challengers. Terry Jamison, a Black woman lawyer, Marilyn Zayas, a Hispanic lawyer, I believe, and Jennifer Bruner, who is an associate justice running to unseat the Chief Justice. Those 3 women, Democrats, who have been vetted by either local Dems or local law groups, are the best chance of flipping what is now a 4-3 Ohio Supreme Court to something more palatable, like a 4-3 Dem or a 5-2 Dem. In contrast, we now have to defend 2 incumbents on the North Carolina Supreme Court in order to maintain our 4-3 majority, because it's Democrats that are up for re-election in 2022 in North Carolina. So if we lose those 2 elections, the court will immediately swing to a 2-5 controlled by Republicans in North Carolina. And they can do all kinds of damage with that kind of, without a check on what their agenda is in North Carolina. Lucy Inman, that's Inman, is running to fill one of those seats. And Sam Ervin IV is the incumbent we have to defend in North Carolina in order to maintain the 4-3. We don't have any opportunities to flip any seats on that court. So the best we can do is to hold what we have. In Ohio, that's a different story. We have the ability to flip multiple seats. I don't see it happening. Maybe 1 out of the 3 will flip, but we still have to try. And in Texas, there are 3 separate elections for the Texas Supreme Court and the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, which is the Supreme Court for criminal matters. 3 seats are up on both of those. And we've fielded some very good candidates in the past, every election cycle, blah, blah, blah. And it's Texas, so it's very difficult to win. But again, it's one of those issues where we have to try to break the Republican stranglehold on their state Supreme Court, because that court is a court of last resort. It has the power to invalidate certain state actions and certain state laws, and that includes gerrymandering, access to the ballot, state access to abortion. All the hot button issues that you care about may end up in front of that court. And because it's in our power to control it, we have to make every effort to try. So there are 5 judicial elections that I would focus on to add to your guys' list of elections that I know you're already working on. 2 in North Carolina and 3 in Ohio. I will do a profile on all the candidates in those races as well after this is over.
Thank you. I just have one more thing
Yeah.
to mention. In Texas, there are county judges as well. Lisa Pamplin is running for Tarrant County judgeship. So there are a group of 5 women, Black women, who are running for judgeships in Texas. So make sure you watch out for those, judges for orphan courts, all the local judges in your area. So make sure you look at those. So thank you so much. And turn off.
Thank you, Crystal. Sammy G, if you can hear me, can you please mute yourself?
Oh yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you please mute yourself?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'll get to you in one moment, okay?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so Tony, Aaron, if you're ready, you can go ahead with your comment or your question.
Yeah, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great, thank you. I don't know if it's just for the women to say, but I'd like to join in and saying thank you for holding the space. I really do actually appreciate getting an opportunity to talk. Just a little background on who I am. I own an independent movie studio. I'm a Black man. I'm 37 years old. I'm currently at Copper Mountain right now in the parking lot, literally surrounded by 98% white people. The reason that's important is because my studio is in the middle of making 2 documentaries. One is about the deliberate lack of diversity in terms of gender and race in the action sports industry, as well as the deliberate lack of climate awareness. And the other documentary is about climate change. 2 Black men traveling the world as eco-tourists on 5 different continents. We will win Best Picture, or whatever they call it, at Sundance in January 2023. The one point I'd like to make, just to let you all know, that's self-financed, by the way, by myself and Chris Carthen, my co-executive producer and best friend. We're literally putting our money where our mouth is, and we talk a lot. So you will see us out representing the community. And just for the record, the majority of all the cast members of all the fictional movies I've made have been women. I've been about that from 15 years now, from the beginning of my career. I support you. You look at my hashtags, you look at my page. I got you. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'd just like to point out, because the reason I say the thing about the company is not to advertise. You don't have to go to my website. It's to say we have a little bit of a different view that we'd like for people to strongly consider. The kind of what we're talking about here is a hashtag that we use called hashtag proportional representation now. See, so the gentleman was reaching for the percentage of white men in the country. He said they're 40% of the judiciary, but he didn't know what percentage of the country they are. The new census says they're 28%. Now that census is an undercount of Black and brown people by at least 1 to 2%. So they're more like 27 or less. So they're overrepresented by something to the account of 60%. Okay, and then everybody else eats that. That overrepresentation comes directly out of our thing. The other thing I'd like to point out to kind of tie this in is that we need to stop talking about voting like, someone said Republicans come out for every election. That is wrong. That is not true. We outvote them in every election by a greater margin every single year. Talk like that. How are they winning anything? How did they have anything close to a majority? In Virginia, in 2016, we outvoted them by over 300,000 votes. They ended up with a 1-seat majority on a coin flip. The next year, we outvoted them by a greater margin. We end up with a 1-seat majority on a coin flip. That's not democracy. We've never been a democracy. You don't start democracies with slavery. We have the exact same proportion of wealth from the rich to the poor as Russia. We are an oligarchy. We have always been an oligarchy.
Tony, thank you so much for your comments. And before we let you go, I would like to know if you have any comments about Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Well, no, I am tying this. That's literally the thing I was about to say, is that the most influential oligarchs in the country are judges. That's where I'm going with this. And so, but we need to.
Bye.
Okay.
I'm done. I couldn't take it anymore. I was
Yeah,
intrigued. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't
Trust
agree
me
with
Sandy
you
now.
on
was
I was
prejudice.
going,
like, you
but then I couldn't take it anymore, so he had to go. Because when she talking about oligarchies and judges, and I can't be bothered. Good luck on
well,
your
Let
good luck
me.
on your
I-
documentary, buddy.
Can I just say something about that?
sure.
Oligarchs means, you have a lot of resources and political power. Judges get paid a fixed salary by the U.S. government, and they have a limited and defined power as set forth in the Constitution and Supreme Court precedents. That's not what an oligarchy is, and we shouldn't be using those terms so uh, you know without knowing exactly what it means. It's like when Bernie Bros call everything that they don't like a war criminal. It's just not appropriate. Sorry.
No, thanks for pointing that out. And we are truly not trying to just stay in here all day. This has been a very productive and informative space that I have appreciated. So, Tiff called it on the boot. Is your space, so no problem with that.
Look, I could
We have.
only take but so much. I was really, really intrigued. I'm not gonna lie,
You
because
know,
I'm like, when,
I'm a very patient
yeah,
woman, so
me
I
too. And
just
I was like,
like
where's
make
he
your
going?
point,
Like,
brother.
what was the point? So I was once he got to the oligarchy, that just kind of threw
Yeah.
me a loop, and
So
I
I
was
said,
just like,
just
yeah, no.
mention the hearing so we can get you out of here. But anyway, all right, we have just a couple more people that want to speak. If anybody else wants to speak, now's your time to request because we're going to go to Miss Cynthia and to Sammy G. And then we're going to close up with all of our hosts who have remaining comments. Sammy G, you're after Miss Cynthia. Please mute yourself again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna let Miss Cynthia was before you. So, but you are right after her. Okay, so just one more moment. Hi, Miss Cynthia. If you're ready
Good
for your
evening
question
and
or
good
comment,
afternoon, everyone. I just want
good
to
evening.
thank Renee and Tiffany so much for giving the information about uh, what we need to look forward for next week. I was sitting at my table in tears. And Gigi, I really want to thank you so much for talking about her faith. Because as you know, faith means a lot to the African American community. That's what have gotten us through. And this is what and I'm finna get off. I just want us to do one thing this week. I want us to fast because she's going to get through this. But I want each one of us that are believers to read the 91st verse of Psalms the whole week. That is our protection verse to protect her to get all the way through this. Everybody have a blessed evening and thank you so much for hosting this space. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Cynthia. I am a believer and I do believe in fasting, and I will join you this week on a fast for our good sister so that she can get on to the highest court of the land. I do believe she will be confirmed as well, and I'm very much looking forward to her confirmation. Thank you for sharing that because we don't talk about faith these days, and it's no dis anyone who doesn't believe. Everyone has a right to believe what they want, but whatever you do, whatever you do, send up your good vibes this week. We're gonna need them, I believe. And as Shauna said earlier, this is a very historic moment, so we want to celebrate it and we want to note it with the seriousness that it takes. So thank you for that comment, Sammy G. If you're ready, it is officially your turn. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, well, I'm here in Ohio, and the reason for what they're doing about the redistricting, there was an undercount, and also we passed an amendment to the Constitution about the unfair representation, uh, and these state senate races and representative races, and that's why they can't get it done. They can't get it done because they know that they've been told by the people, not just me, but people throughout the state. They were passing petitions around a year ago before just before the census started about fair representation here in the state of Ohio, which hasn't been done. The last, I think, Democrat we had was in 1991. It was Dick Celeste. And a lot of those guys have been on there for a long time. So when you hear them turning it down, this is the third time they got until I think Friday they come up with another map, and they're talking about getting um, a outside source to redraw the maps. And Republicans they're feeling mad about that. They've changed the primary a couple of times, the state senate and some other places because it's all tied to the census and about the amendment that voters here in Ohio signed and got it on the ballot and it was passed. So they're doing the will of the people and not because they're doing it to be fair minded. Thank you.
Absolutely right. Yep. I can't say anything else other than I absolutely agree. They're repugnant. And this is the third time that they've been ordered by a Republican controlled Supreme Court to redraw the map. It's ridiculous. My hope is that it gets slapped with so many sanctions that it deters them from trying again. But, they're shameless. So it doesn't seem like that's going to happen.
Well, they're trying to go to the Supreme Court. That's what they want to do. They want to go to the sixth district of Ohio, because it's controlled by Republicans, and they think
Yep.
they stand a better chance to overturn the will of the people and institute an illegal map, a gerrymandered map. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens there.
Absolutely. And Ohio is one of the last states to not complete its gerrymandering, along with Florida, Missouri, New Hampshire, and I'm sure I'm missing one, but should be interesting to see how that develops.
All right.
Thank you for your comment, Sammy G, and for kind of enlightening us a bit about everything that's going on in Ohio. We should probably host the spaces on gerrymandering, actually. So maybe somebody will do that. I'll just put that in the universe. We're going to go to Nat Nat. I believe you're our last speaker. So go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead with your comment or question.
Hey everyone. Thanks to the host for holding this space. So this is a very exciting time. When Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson gave her acceptance speech when she was nominated, I was smiling from ear to ear and crying and so excited for her. You would have thought I was related to her. I think about my daughter who's 6 months old, and in a few years, I'll be able to teach her about this historic moment. And I remember when I was a kid, learning about Thurgood Marshall, and even though he had long passed by the time I learned about him, I just remember him being so remarkable to me. So I think about my daughter and how, again, I'll be able to teach her about this in a few years. And I'm just so excited about this time. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to hear to hear excitement for sure, because we should be excited about this. And it is something to, if you have kids or nieces or nephews, it's something to watch with them. I remember, I will never forget. I mean, and this is why I had initial issues with Joe Biden, because one of the first hearings that I watched was Clarence Thomas, and I watched Anita Hill before that. My parents were attorneys; they were very passionate about this, and I was a very young child. But I remember watching it with them, and I remember my father being a little surprised that Clarence Thomas was going to be confirmed. It's just really interesting. So I still have that memory. So if you have kids, younger people, they will carry this with them. They will remember these moments and recall them later as to why they're important. So just don't forget that, because it is important. And as we kind of close up a little bit, I'm just gonna go to Tiff and to Tony to see if they have any final comments. I want to thank and Kim, our team, for joining us, and for being here to support Geechee as well. And if Geechee, if you have any final comments, also please go ahead and offer those at this time.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining. Geechee, do you want to say something before I go?
No, you go and I'll go after you.
No, you go first. Go. All right, fine. He's got to be
Sorry
difficult.
about that. I had to
Anyways,
put my headphones in. Okay.
okay, now you can. Well, now you can go.
Sorry about that. This woman is a spectacular woman. She's a smart woman. She came up to the public school system. She's a woman of faith. She's a well-learned woman, a well-spoken woman. She is brilliant. Any woman that can make me cry multiple times in 1 year is a great woman. I don't know if y'all know this or not. I debated. I debated in high school, debated in college. I thought I was the shit. In my freshman year, I only lost 3 debates in my whole time in high school. And that woman wore my ass a loose and had me crying. And I mean, in fucking tears. because she wore me out. And it wasn't like I looked like Boo Boo the Fool. Like it was a slaughter. Like it was, I tried it damn like there's like points that you use in debate and like structure you use in debate. And so like I have this trick, which I think some of y'all will see, where I'll throw like an ad hominem in to try to get them off track. And like it was just like thrown back at me and then like ridiculed. And it was just, woman is brilliant. None of these people are going to make her look like a fool. And one of these senators who the Republicans always talk about being brilliant and being this and being that, Ted Cruz, she went to school with. And all the records say that she like wore him a loose in debates there, because they debated in college also, and she wore him a loose there too. So this is a great woman, a very smart woman. We should all be proud. We have to fight for her, and we should use this to energize everybody else. That's all I have. Thank y'all for having me today. I'm sorry for being late, and on to the next person.
Can we just marinate for just
No,
a little
no,
bit, though,
no,
in the
no,
fact
no.
that
Y'all are not gonna do that. They're gonna be doing this to me this week.
Ketanji, hold on, that Ketanji Brown Jackson, were you out in a debate, and do you remember what you were arguing about, and what year was this, and like what did you do to soothe your ego after? Like I need just a few more details before we get to Tiff. You're not gonna give us any details, brother.
I am likely going to hear about it this week. I'm going down to St. Pete for my high school reunion. I'm planning a committee and also a banquet for the people that are in high school now. And it has been like the conversation about me crying like a little bitch. And my mom just like shaking her head like, you just lost. It's just a loss, to get over it. And me just like being devastated because, sometimes people can be cocky at certain times. And I just thought, I'm the shit. Let me just walk up in here. And she just looked at me like she paid me dust and then dusted me off. So I'm looking forward to this. Like anyone that can, I love to see people that are great. And like this vice president we have, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, when they dismiss and take people apart, Obama taking Romney apart, Harris taking Pence apart, Harris taking apart these other judges. It makes me happy. It makes me I am filled with euphoria when it happens. And I am looking forward to this woman in a polite way, like the way that Tabitha Brown ended Wendy Williams' career. I look forward to her taking these people apart and then going on the Supreme Court and writing opinions that galvanize this country, because that woman can do it. She's one of the most brilliant people to ever walk this earth, and I am looking forward to seeing her do her shit.
I'm looking forward to it as well. And man, y'all ride that Geechee wave, ride this exact feeling into this week with this confirmation. I've never heard Geechee give such a glowing um character, explanation of anyone, recommendation. So that must mean that she really is everything that we want her to be and more. So thank you for sharing that. You've got a great personal memory there, brother, for real. Okay, Tiff and Tony, final thoughts? You want to wrap us up?
Yeah, I think just to piggyback off what Geechee said is to remember that she's human, and that, while we may put her on a pedestal, she is a human being, and she is going to have to answer these questions, and we can't fight it for her. She's gonna have to fight it out herself, but it sounds like she is well prepared and can do that very easily with a smile. So I'm very excited to see, how she answers the questions, how she politely, and probably, she's a Black woman, she's gonna have some shade, because that's how we do, and she will say something back in a polite way, but also very much like, yeah, you're stupid, in response. So I look forward to that, and I just want everyone to, if it gets overwhelming, turn off the TV, come back to it. It's not, some of it is not going to be easy to listen to. We've been here before, and I agree, Renee. When my first experience with a judge was probably Clarence Thomas, so this will be a definite cleanser. The last few that we've had were not great either. Just watching Republicans being put on the court, so it'll be a nice change of pace to be able to watch it, see her in all her glory and fabulousness up there, and just showing the world that a Black woman can be a Supreme Court judge. It shouldn't have taken this long. But if there was anyone that was going to be first, it is her, because she's earned it in every which way. And I'm so proud of her, and I'm so proud of how far we've come. And I just look forward to the week progressing. And thankfully, we all have each other as a community to kind of help each other through it, because I'm sure we will all be live tweeting as the days go on and talking about it. And who knows what will come of it. We may, if it's crazy, we may have live spaces. Who knows? But I am definitely looking forward to seeing how this goes. And I'm praying, like Miss Cynthia said, that all goes well. So thanks everyone for joining, and Renee for hosting. Tony.
Yeah.
Last.
My last words on this issue is I'm super glad that Judge Jackson will likely be confirmed to the Supreme Court. It provides a moment for the Democratic base to revel in achieving a major historical milestone, and that paves the way for more milestones to be set. Um, I I think it's I think her presence on the court is going to be invaluable because her background as a federal public defender on the U.S. Sentencing Commission is going to temper some of the rather pro-punishment views on criminal justice that has basically dominated the court for however many years. Justice Stephen Breyer is a notorious crime hawk because he was mugged once, and his rulings have been informed by that experience ever since. So I think it is a big moment for the country when someone of Judge Jackson's stature, background, and expertise is named and confirmed to the court. And my hope is that she's able to temper some of the more extreme views that we've seen suggested from the likes of Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, who, despite being old and ornery, have nonetheless persisted in vicious partisan judicial warfare. They are much worse than Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett, which is a surprise to me because those three were chosen for their vicious partisanship, but these two, in recent memory, since the 6-3 got confirmed, they've really upped their game. So this is just the first step of getting rid of that 6-3, and it's going to take a lot of continuous, ongoing effort to make that happen. That's all I have. Thanks, everyone, for joining our spaces today.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you, Tiff. Thank you, Tony, for your work and your research and putting this together, putting all the information for us together. This Spaces is being recorded, so it'll be up, you guys, for about 30 days. But share the link so that folks can kind of maybe try to listen in on some of this as the hearings are going on. I'm gonna try to get a YouTube link for it as well, because that may be easier to share for our friends who are not on Twitter. So I may post that later today or tomorrow. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. Please enjoy the week. Do your homework. Be ready. Let's fight hard, but let's celebrate hard as well, because this is a great achievement for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, as well as our country. It is so long overdue, but we welcome it with open arms, and I'm really excited to see her confirmed. So thank you. You guys have a great week. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Putin's playing with our internet.